Welcome, everybody, to Worlds Cooldown, presented by State Farm. I'm FLICKR, joined today by Raz and Spawn at the crack of dawn for some, about breakfast time in these parts. Raz, did you manage to fuel up before cooldown, or today's games enough to get you going?
Oh, I'm already good. I feel like the games have done that for me. So in terms of food, I'll get that a little later. In terms of the games, yep, definitely feeling good.
What about you, Spawn? How are things in your neck of the woods?
Feeling good, huh, Spawn?
It's actually perfect time for me still. Like, I'm just going to keep rubbing it into the rest of the world. Like, 1 a.m., perfect game hours. Like, I miss being able to stay up until this time. And you know what? Unfortunately, the last game, it didn't go the way that I wanted it to, but I'm still enjoying, what 7 games? That's such a big day of League of Legends.
That's why we have you on cooldown. Apparently 1 a.m. Spawn is the best one. We love having your takes here. And for anybody tuning into cooldown for the first time, this is where we will be taking a look at the big takeaways from today's. So warning, spoilers ahead. And we got plenty of them, because if we take a look at the standings, we had 7 games that contributed to what we have seen so far. Unicorns of Love leading their group after 2 victories for themselves. Rainbow 7 putting themselves somewhat on the board, but at the cost of LGD, Raz, not so much for them.
Yeah, kind of crazy, isn't it? Like, the fact that LGD already, based off the first 2 games, taking big shots, and against Rainbow 7 too, that weren't looking good throughout the tournament. Feels bad, man.
Yeah, I mean, when you come in as one of the weakest members of that group, I think that I had, maybe V3 slightly weaker, but LGD falling down to Rainbow 7 after they lost to V3 already, that was like a real strange game to me. And it just looks like it can't get much done. Mad Lions at the same time as well. Now 1 and 2 on the standings. What is happening to our 4th seed teams?
Yeah, it could have easily been 0 and 3, looking at the INTZ versus Mad Lions game. It's just like the result is panning out as it is, but also just like if you look deeper, the quality of the games aren't looking good for our 4th seeds.
But the last game, maybe some people on the desk feeling better about it than others. And lucky for us, we do get to hear some words directly from players. Specifically, we have Lore getting some words from Tactical.
And thank you very much, Tactical, joining me right now after Team Liquid's 2nd win here in Play-ins 2020. Thank you very much for joining me.
No problem.
So, as I said, you guys are 2-0 right now. It's your first time going to Worlds, so I want to say first, congratulations on this result. And how are you enjoying the competition and tournament so far?
So far, it's been really fun, especially since I get to play on a stage now. Because in LCS, we didn't get to play on stage at all. So it's like a new experience for me.
Yeah.
And it's like even Worlds. And so far, it's been really fun playing versus other regions. I've always wondered what it was like to play versus other regions. And it's been pretty fun so far.
All right, well, I'm happy that you're enjoying the stage experience, because given that you're a rookie, I thought that this would be something that goes in your way. But I mean, you have an experienced roster here to help you. All these players have so much experience on international stage. So have they been able to help you and share their wisdom to help you being ready here?
Yeah, I think since my team is so experienced, everyone's really calm during the matches. And I think it helps a lot. I've never really played with, so far, I've only played with veteran players, so I'm not really sure what it would have been like if I was playing with newer players as well. But so far, it seems pretty nice during the stage games, because everyone's pretty calm, and it's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it can see that everything is clicking between you guys. Last question here, a few words. Are you confident for the rest of play-ins?
Yeah, I think we're going to do pretty well, and I think if I just keep doing what I'm doing and do my job in the team, I think we're going to do well.
I agree with you. Thank you very much for the interview, and congrats again on going to 0 here so far in China. And back to you, Gabby, in cooldown.
Tactical's first interview on the world stage. Spawn, we had you on cooldown yesterday, and in both cases, we're coming fresh off of a Team Liquid victory. I think it's fair to say, are you impressed with the rookie's performance?
Absolutely. I mean, when you have a look at Tactical, he's kind of everything you want in a rookie bottom laner. It seems like he has great direction around Summoner's Rift, really solid fundamentals, and he doesn't make those whoopsies that we attribute to young players all that often. So I think that he's been super solid. And I mean, just speaking towards the interview as well, who wouldn't love to play as a rookie on a lineup that has, Core JJ as your support, Impact as your top laner, Jensen and Broxah? I mean, that is just like an experience sandwich surrounding the rookie, and it's no wonder that he's stepping up big in these games.
I mean, Raz, that's what we experienced all throughout the split since he's come into that starting spot, getting to see him learn from the veterans. But on a bigger scale, because we did have a lot going on today, I do want to get your assessment of some of those large takeaways. What's the first thing that stood out to you on day 2?
Kind of preluded to it already, looking at the standings. Kind of delving deeper, it's LGD. Like, I'm always excited to see LPL teams come at Worlds, right? Just because I always talk about the depth of talent, or at least the depth of the teams coming in. And then LGD dropped they dropped something. It wasn't looking good.
They dropped games.
Yeah, a lot of games.
Picked up L's.
And if they were to drop games to, they dropped games to PSG. If they dropped a game to the LCL team, I think it would be okay, right? Because then you would say, okay, well, they'll come back stronger. But losing to Rainbow 7 for me has a lasting impact, because I saw Rainbow 7 as the worst team of the Pulse 2 teams. The fact that they lost in this fashion, they look nothing like themselves domestically too, means that it's only going to get harder from here for this team.
And I think that when you have a look in the fashion that they are losing, Raz, because they have elements of control throughout these games, but they're just botching their compositions and they're constantly getting caught out.
Yeah.
This is an area that a couple of the analysts were speaking towards, are they going to show composure, or is this going to be an LGD that still makes mistakes? Well, the mistakes are still very apparent in their gameplay, and it doesn't seem to be getting any easier because, as you mentioned, this is a team that you would have expected them to beat.
Because you expect veterans to come in big moments. Really, the only player that I look to and say, they don't have that experience internationally or like in big games is Mark, right? The rest of the talent there have been in these moments before, so it's that much more surprising for me that it feels like those execution errors are coming so much more frequently.
So if you're a fan of the LPL, though, Raz, should you panic at this point if you're watching LGD?
I always have faith that they'll come back, right? I think, I always had that faith because we've seen them domestically. This kind of reminds me of the first run that FPX had within their group stage when they were in the main stage, that people just started having knee-jerk reactions. This is not going to be the LGD that we see in the next few days. And if it is, we got a problem, right? But I think that, especially now that they have the night to kind of look back at their games and have real conversations amongst each other, this should not be the same team that we see going forward tomorrow.
Raz, you don't have to quote a different team from LGD, because I hate to break it to you, buddy. LGD have already done this once at a World Championship. They've come into a group as a favorite. They're supposed to be able to wipe everyone else out, and they've been able to pick up a one solid victory. I'm telling you, I smell some choking going on. And I think that, expectations are so high. And we talk about this being in a home city and the fan expectation of being able to roll through an area. That's tough to be able to deal with sometimes. And I think that when you start losing games, that only gets more difficult. It doesn't get easier from here. You already dropped the sitters. Now you have to play the hard ones.
Yeah, and just one added portion of it. A lot of it comes down to also just taking your opponent seriously and having the added prep. Just a small thing, like losing a ban on blue side should just never happen. Like that literally should never happen. And it could happen for multiple reasons, but it shouldn't be for lack of prep. So that's something that LGD coming into this one, obviously unprepared.
Yeah, that's a pivotal resource that you end up not using in that scenario. But for other teams within play-ins, perhaps the losses that have been suffered by LGD leave openings for them to make a statement. Spawn, are there teams or emerging regions that you feel have been stand out here?
Yeah, coming into Worlds, I was keeping my eye on the TCL and the LCL, Unicorns of Love as well as Supermassive. Historically, these have been the two regions as well as the VCS that have started to take that step. And I think that it is certainly becoming a conversation of who is that strongest emerging region, because it looks like the gap is closing. I'm a massive fan of the way Supermassive play the game of League of Legends. They are much more fluid, in my opinion, than a lot of the other teams. They have a more solid early game, and it does seem that the Unicorns of Love's games do degrade at a certain point and become a little bit more scrappy and a little bit more team fight heavy, Raz. I'm seeing an essence of finesse right now in Supermassive that I am not used to seeing from these emerging region teams.
Yeah, and I think we both saw the same thing when we were watching their games domestically. Like they recognize, like they know when to get vision, how to get vision. Like a lot of it comes down to being patient as well. So when top lane is pushing out, that they're not, sticking their necks out to get picked off. Like this is just patient, disciplined play coming in from Supermassive, and we're seeing that and then some. Because even though we were both high on this team coming into the tournament, I didn't expect them actually beating Mad. I know we'll be talking about that specific game later on. But like for me, we're seeing a much more refined team that we're already looking good. So yeah, it's fun to be able to see Pool 2 teams come in hot this tournament.
And it's also great to just see individual players like take that step up. And, you have to shout out the top laner in Armwood as well. He's been able to have back-to-back terrific games today, bursting onto the scene here at Worlds and really carrying his team over the line.
I gotta say, fellas, I really love listening to your well-thought-out, in-depth analysis. But look, I think it's time for you to get in the hot seat. I want to get some of your gut reactions. So it's time to hit you with some buzzing questions. I want you to answer as quick as possible. We're going to do one of you at a time. Spawn,
going to dig
you're
into
the one.
us.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I'm trying to really not make this cool down. I'm trying to heat things up. Spawn, are you ready?
All right.
Yeah, Raz, you get a little bit of a break.
You sure you don't want to answer it for me?
No,
I'm
you
good.
got this.
I'm
You got
good.
this.
Spawn, you just trying to push it off a little bit, but nah, here we go. I'm going to hit you with it. First question to you. Most fun game to watch today?
Legacy TL.
Quick. All right. Biggest int.
With Tally in the mid lane.
Favorite breakfast cereal?
Wheat Bix.
Okay. Best play?
Cacao on the Hecarim dive, probably, I think. Level 3.
Okay. And what champion do you want to see played next?
Kane.
Oh, there we go. That's not going to happen, but there we go.
Ooh, I was more thrown off by your cereal answer, I think, than any of your answers.
That proves how old he is.
Wheat Bix? Wheat Bix? Do you know what they are? They're like a brick of like wheat-based cereal, like this big, and you have them with milk and maybe like a little bit of honey, some chopped up bananas over the top.
Yeah, let's just say a few more years on you, and you're going to be adding more raisins to it. That's all I'm saying. I'm going to put that in there.
That sounds like a cereal that benefits much more from the toppings that you're putting into it. I'm a Cinnamon Toast Crunch girl myself, but yeah, you can simmer on that, Raz. No cereal-related questions coming your way. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, first, biggest surprise so far?
Ooh, I'm LGD for the wrong reasons.
Right ones.
Favorite play-in team logo?
Wait, say favorite play in team logo?
Favorite play-in's team logo, yes.
Legacy. I think Legacy's logo is sick.
All right, what scares you most? Halloween?
Tomorrow. Tomorrow for LGD. Let's see.
All right, what champion do you think needs to sit the rest of Worlds out?
Lilia. I don't want to see that champion no more.
Easy. And play-in team that could win Worlds.
Woo! We're going to do it like that, huh? Team Liquid. I think let's go Team Liquid. They're looking good right now. I just cheated.
Now,
He's the third seed.
if you had to pivot back into your more defined analytical mind to defend that point, what do you think is about Team Liquid that could pose them in that winning position?
I mean, one thing that we are able to see is like the discipline play that's around Core JJ. Core JJ is like a stunning support right now, and even like before the show even started, we got to listen in on the comms, and he's really directing a lot of their play. That's great to see, and the carries around those calls are playing really well. We got to hear from Tactical, and on top of that, Jensen had a smashing performance last game. If we can continue that and they can develop, then sure.
I think also that we've started to throw structure around as a little bit of a dirty word in League of Legends. People like the more free-flowing, team fight, like skirmish-heavy style. But I do think that, like, Team Liquid have a couple of set plays that seem to work for them. That invade in the last game that we just watched into the bottom side with Bob Pryo. A lot of their 2-2-1 setups when they had Baron buffs and things like that, Raz. I think that this is a team that is smart in my opinion. And if they can continue to maintain the high mechanical play that they're playing at, I think they are a chance to make waves. They're not winning Worlds. I'll be the first person to say it, Rez, you're crazy. No one from play-ins is winning Worlds.
I was still in the question. Come on now.
You could have said no one, but yeah, I think out of the people still here, maybe they're the best chance.
Oh my goodness. I'm not going to give the people a non-answer, all right? I will say this, though, another addition to it, because it feels like I'm snubbing him. Impact has just been amazing right now, actually. On weak side, he's been absorbing a lot of pressure. We saw his game going up against Mad Lions. He was the primary carry. Like, so far, he's been having an insane start to Worlds.
I don't know what you're talking about when it comes to answering a question. You offered that unsolicited. You just declared Team Liquid as your champ. So I said it, it's done. But keeping in the zone of quickness, I just had y'all do some quick thinking. But when it comes to the game of League of Legends on the biggest stage, the World Championship, a win or a loss can come down to a split-second play. We're going to honor some of these amazing mechanics in today's Every Second Counts, powered by Cisco. Spawn, what we got?
Yeah, and I know you weren't too happy about this one, Raz, because this looks like a stack wave coming in, but they shoot the arrow early, and it is instantly cleansed off. No time to flash in to get a follow-up kill. No ignite going down there. Those snap-second reactions potentially save a life.
Yeah, and it's the reason why I was pissed off is because, like, you can press tab. You already know that they have cleanse on that bot side of the map. And you having pressure for how long in this game? Like, just set up a play. Call your jungler. I know the jungler's back at base, but he was actually pathing bot side. So that should turn into a dive pretty easily if you get it coordinated. But guess what? It didn't happen. You right. And instantly cleanse it out. All right, we'll give him that.
Yeah. You right, Raz's words. But for now, we're going to go ahead and step away for a break. But on the other side, we'll be waiting through the games of the day, giving some props to the players that impressed us as well. More cooldown after this. Welcome back to Worlds Cooldown, presented by State Farm, with a jam-packed 7-game day on day 2 already. What? We have so much to cover. Yeah, I love it. So once again, I'm going to challenge our analysts to keep things speedy. You thought you were here for a marathon. I have multiple sprints for you. In our next segment, which is Sleeping Didn't Watch, for all of our NA or other regions that may have missed out on what was happening today. So let's bring up the clock. Game number 1, it was Rainbow 7 versus V3 Esports.
Yeah, sweet. I'll take this one. I mean, for me, it was just kind of reassessing the skill between both V3 and Rainbow 7. Of course, V3 LGL team being introduced for Worlds for this game. Of course, they did come in slow. They had at least Renekton. They had an Ashe set bot side, so they actually had side lane prio. You saw at least go towards top side for a gank, and it was working out well for them on that one. And then you see towards this one. This one was a really scrappy game. So the problem here for Rainbow 7 was the fact that they were constantly walking in towards V3's vision, so they never really got to deal with Paz's flank. So every single time, Paz was able to push out bot side of the map, and then coming in at a flank. There was one fight 23 minutes into the game that he was able to do that in red side jungle, but it was just a constant. So for me, major lesson here if you're a Rainbow 7, put Tristana on a side lane, or just have another lane of prio so you don't have to constantly deal with it. So it was a big win for Rainbow 7. It took a bit of time, but it was a nice way to make your entry into Worlds.
Well,
maybe don't catch every skill shot on Twitch. That was the only other thing, maybe.
Perhaps. All right, Spot, we got game number 2. Like you said, super massive, looking super massive.
Yeah, and I mean, this was the game that I was speaking about, Kakao and Armor putting on an absolute clinic for the TCL representatives. This Shen was out of control. The Hecarim was riding over whoever he wanted. Shinny had a couple of good moments on the Nidalee as well, if you are going to look at what INTZ did well. However, really, it was all super massive. Big top dive play here for INTZ that just went all wrong, and the game, Raz, just snowballed completely out of control.
Yeah, even off that top play, the fact that Armut just had a monster performance, 7-0 and 5 at this point of the game, he could just dictate the flow on side lanes. And then this game for me kind of blew wide open off of what was a blundered Rift Herald play from INTZ. And from that point forward, how are you going to fight into supermassive composition? Like, that's a souped up Hecarim that you really can't add damage.
Well, game number 3, Spawn, you said this was the most exciting game to watch of the day. Why was that?
I mean, having a look at UOL coming into Worlds, I thought this was a team that was going to have great starts, good plans, and then scrappy team fighting, and that is exactly what we saw. Level 1 action. We actually got a teleport out of a mage bottom lane Orianna into a lane swap in this game. It was crazy. However, Boss stood tall, and in the end, it was no man's Kassadin, the pocket pick that came out and shocked V3. He was uncatchable, unkillable, and completely destroyed them.
Yeah, and you know, gotta watch out for No Man's TPs because he was able to get a lead off that on bot side, was able to do the same thing in the top side of the map, and from that point forward, they were just tight team fighting into them. I really love the draft. And just the play themselves, UOL came into this tournament as a strong team fighting team, and they proved that with this game for me.
Proving why they're known for that experimentation in the draft too. You noted how important it was in this game. We saw that coming from them later on in their next game as well. But we're not to that one just yet because game 4 was the first upset of the day, Raz. This was LGD losing out.
Yeah, to put it simple, LGD came in with a strong split push comp in Camille TF, and they were going up against what was a bulky team fight comp versus Rainbow 7. The game, as per usual from LGD, from what they showcased earlier on in the tournament, they're slow. The execution for me was a little troubling because on both plays, it's not as if LGD wasn't trying to be aggressive. They were, but they were just blundering at times. The Dragons, for me, very impactful. Rainbow 7 forced themselves into a soul point, got into Ocean Soul on the, as well, and forced LGD to play into them in team fights because they were making it difficult for them to actually play on side. So a real difficult one for LGD in this game.
Certainly was, and I just love the no ego comp coming across from Rainbow 7. When you pick up things like Ezreal, Orianna, and Ornn, you're expecting to lose your lanes just a little bit. However, you are also expecting to scale into the game. That's exactly what they did. They won clutch team fights in clutch moments.
And Spawn, game number 5 was another victory for Unicorns of Love with yet another different comp.
Certainly was, and when we have a look at this game, it was really great top lane dive plays from Ananase into Rift Herald control. Kaiwing and Kongyue, however, they're still kind of smurfs, if you don't mind. They were having big moments constantly throughout this. However, Boss was like 50 CS up over Hanabi. I feel like you do have to CS at a certain point. Eventually, they cracked open the top lane, they rotated him around the map, and they cracked open everything until there was really nothing left standing. Unicorns of Love, once again, they bring another team down to their level, Raz, and they just seem to beat them with experience.
Yeah, just scrap them. And I love the comp. I thought it handled what PSG wanted to do really well, right? Because PSG just wants to dive into them with Volibear, Alistar set, and they have fairly low damage, and you're just begging them to do that. Renekton, Swain, Rakan, they can counter engage really well. So I thought that was a really smart comp coming in from Unicorns of Love once again.
Rakan been putting in the work across many of these games. Our next one, we had Supermassive versus Mad Lions. Raz, depending what perspective you have, this could be an upset.
That's one thing, right? Because me and Spawn were both high on Supermassive. We didn't expect, or at least I didn't expect them to take down Mad. And for me, it started in the top lane. Once again, that was Armut just dominating Orome, and it's a very snowbally matchup as well, which turned into constant team fights off of what is heavily warded Supermassive side of the map. Like, Supermassive, once again, incredibly disciplined in where they place down vision, so when Mad Team was trying to contest that, Kaiser got picked off on the bot side of the map, and in this side, when they were contesting for what is the red side jungle from Mad Team, they were ready with full 5 members. So yeah, Mad Team right now are not doing too hot in the tournament.
Yeah, and I think when you have a look at support play, you can't really go past Snowflower as well. On the Leona this game, constant setup for his team to be able to get into fights, and just the repetitive use of those spells to be able to chase people down on the back end as well. He was on point with the skill shots and was really able to take over from that support position.
Super cool to see support Spawn today. And another good support.
Take it away, Spawn.
This was a disaster. If you're an Oceanic fan, turn your monitor off now, go to bed, it's over, because this game was just dominated by the mid laner of Team Liquid. Jensen from minute 1 had Tally's number. This is a tactic that's being used domestically, but Jensen, he's unlike any Oceanic mid laner. He's going to be able to rip you apart. Great support coming in from Broxer to be able to shadow the lane. but really, I haven't seen a mid lane masterclass like this in years.
Yeah, and he was just calling for Bruxa to be coming in the moment he recognized he was using lethal. It just really felt like Tally couldn't do anything about it. And on top of that, what I enjoyed about it was that, like, a good example is they went towards the top lane outer turret and they brought in the support. They always had numbers, and they were always just overwhelming Legacy when they found themselves huge deficits in lane. So I thought that was really well done here by Team Liquid.
Another strong performance from them to give them 2 victories. Some of these games it looked like y'all wanted to dive a bit deeper into. So let's touch on V3 versus Unicorns of Love once more. Raz, you already mentioned that the draft was an important factor here, but what was it? Let's go ahead and highlight some of the unique aspects and how they played out in the game.
For me, it was the Orianna, because what we saw from Gadget in domestic play was that he was willing to play mages. Teams who would put in prep, you should know that coming into the tournament. I just wanted to know what it would materialize into, because very rarely do you get to see AD carry and mid lane kind of champions intertwine, other than like Syndra is a great example of a mage that goes bot lane. When they picked Orianna early, I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I was bought into the fact that that'd be a mid lane pick. And so you started seeing Karthus, Set, Galio, which made it for a really good R5 on Kassadin. So Unicorns of Love, I think, really outdrafted based off of just what was a very smart play and Gadget being very flexible bot lane.
And that's the key to it, right? This isn't the first time we've seen from Unicorns of Love that they're willing to pick a mage and put it bot to be able to tear open the rest of the map. This is just flexibility across the board and leaving your draft open-ended enough that you're not going to be stacked up on that magic damage. It certainly caught V3 off guard. And I think also kind of surprised me as well, because Gadget, he not only played the champion, he played it quite well and opened up a lot of those fights for No Mans.
And there were so many fights to be had, because even though Unicorns of Love came out victorious, it felt like V3 was controlling some of the pacing and sometimes getting punished, sometimes not, Spawn.
Yeah, and I mean, when you have a look at this fight in particular, it looks like V3 are going to be able to hit back, but No Mans comes in off the back side of the team fight. And it's going to be crucial to just track him, because as you can see, like, this was a huge fight where V3 is looking to be able to clean up. And No Mans, he gets himself the first kill, going to be able to pick up Rift Herald as well. And he wastes so much damn time. This is the frustrating thing about Kassadin.
Oh my.
He's not even level 16 yet. He leads them all the way through the jungle, gets the respawn from boss, and ends up turning this fight with like a triple kill at the end. The Kassadin was out of control.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that, like, even earlier on in the game, because at this point they already had a lead, it was based off of kind of his eyes on the map. TP that he was having bot lane that got the kill on towards Paz, like TP towards top side as well. I think No Man's had a really good start. Of course, the draft really helped him out there so he can have a good matchup. But, I mean, he was set up to succeed with how this game was going.
And this was just solo lane gap all over the place right now. You can have a look at it. The Camille definitely did its job, but it was about the Kassadin and the Orianna, that flexibility of Unicorns of Love. They are a team to watch. I keep talking about these emerging regions and their ability to step up. Well, Unicorns of Love is certainly one of those 2 teams that I want to keep my eyes on in these play-in stages.
Multiple players stepping up in that scenario, which is the best that you can hope for when looking at the future of their performances here at Worlds. But I do want to dive into another game as well. We talked about the fact that LGD's loss against Rainbow 7 is an upset, but we need to look into that a bit more, because it wasn't looking great from the start, especially when you're missing out on a ban.
Yeah, so the ban got me off guard. And of course, like, there's a lot of ways you can kind of spin it, but at the end of the day, you should already know what kind of potential bans you want to throw out on blue side. Like, that shouldn't even be a thing that comes like to mind. But even still, I thought the composition worked out really well. They got what they wanted. Like, CA's Twisted Fate is something that, teams have been banning consistently in playoff time as well. So, like, we're able to get yourself, which is a really good, like, side lane composition. And you have a disengaged support. So, like, as long as you play towards sides initially and trade when the enemy team is hard grouping for our objectives, then you should play this one out well. My issue before coming into this game was that LGD was already playing a rather slow game and a conservative game. If you're doing that, you maybe don't play a comp like this, because then you don't necessarily hard push an advantage that you would have on a Camille, and that's the one kind of caveat I'd put down.
But Raz, if you're going to play like a comp like this, play the comp. You can have a look. It's 4v5. There's no jungle available, but they're still fighting the team fights. They're not trying to pull numbers away from the dragon. That was the soul going over to Rainbow 7, and they're still able to win out in the 4v5 action. And again, we're going to see it one more time on the Elder Drake as well. This time around, LGD, they finally get the pickup. They're finally able to take down the AD carry. They stall his death timer until the Elder Drake is going to be available. They generate themselves another 4v5, but instead of putting pressure on the map and continuing to stall around here, Peanut took a bad trade. You can see he's already at 50% health. They're coming in from multiple angles. They're not flashing shockwaves, and they're saving that for the next fight as well. This game in general was just LGD having no idea how to play their composition, and Rainbow 7 being so comfortable to take even uneven numbered team fights. They were taking so many 4v5s and they were winning all of them.
Yeah, I think LGD, you know, when they go back home, or at least when they go through the film, will always look back at their Drake setups, because first dragon, you know, get for themselves, that's all fine, Infernal. The next dragon, they kind of soft contest when they should be hard playing towards top side. Camille should be playing towards top lane outer turret while the enemy team is getting a Drake, but they end up getting Drake for free. And that's just the theme here, is that Rainbow 7 are getting Drakes. Well, they're not, well, you know, LGD are not setting up for the Camille split push. They're not punishing the Ornn on side lane. And so when it gets to soul point, right, Ornn actually goes towards the dragon and then just sacks 2 minion waves because he knows that is the win condition. So if LGD are going to go back and they're going to be like, okay, do we play team fights? If not, and if we're going to be committing to what we've been successful in domestic play, then we have to play to it, like you just said.
And Rainbow 7 has a lot to be proud of, considering the disparity in experience levels between these two rosters as well. And getting those kind of wins can really build some confidence when you have future matches ahead. And speaking of building confidence, I do want to build up some of these players individually that have given us these moments of pure enjoyment. And I'm going to go ahead and kick things off with my player that stood out today, one that we have already talked about, which is Nomanz. And Raz, I think you're absolutely right earlier saying there were multiple players on this team that stood out. But one, it was definitely entertaining to see him draw out the complete chase here that resulted in ultimate victories for his team. But great use of the teleport to position himself correctly. The synergy between him and the ultimates from things like the Orianna really offered an opportunity for this team to come together and capitalize upon the comp that they brought to the table, allowing Gadget to unleash and Camille right there in the top lane too. So a lot of work from Nomanz to set that up. But Raz, is there anyone else on the team that you think is worth highlighting? I think I know it's going to be. You've already mentioned him a couple times.
I already talked to him about a million times, but I was still struggling with this one because I thought Armut had a really strong showing at the very tail end, but I got Gadget because what ended up doing today can be meta defining. I know that in previous metas, in previous years, we saw Orianna bot lane. I remember in the LPL, Y4 and all that picking that up. But if teams can see this, then teams will start questioning themselves of whether or not like they can add that to their arsenal as well. The Swain, for me, I loved it, because going up against the Alistar, like I mentioned, Set and Volibear, like, you want that team to dive into you. That was actually a back and forth game that was ultimately decided based off of what is a smarter composition from Unicorns of Love. So if they're going to really etch their legacy at Worlds and kind of come down to what makes them better than another team, is going to be how they draft, and it comes down to Gadget's ability to play these mages.
It's a lot easier to praise a unique draft when they execute it in the fashion that they did in these games. Spawn, what player do you have to offer for us?
I have to go back to one of my oldest favorite players in League of Legends. It's Cacao, of course, from Supermassive. This is a guy that I used to love when he played over in the LCK. Then in China as well, Raz, I talked about him a lot as well on the IG lineup. And coming into this, it seems to be the rebirth of Cacao. He had early game setups, and his Nidalee game to me was almost flawless. In the first 16 minutes of the game, he had 100% kill participation. He had taken a dragon, he had taken both Rift Heralds for the team, and he was absolutely everywhere, teaming up with his top laner Armut, who was another standout player. But just for the storyline and the narrative, like, I'm a little bit biased here, guys. I'm going to go with Kakao. But in saying that, because there is the, China and 2015 memes running around, I don't want to see any Skarner Raz. That's the one thing I will say. I don't want to see IG Kakao Skarner on Summoner's Rift at all this Worlds.
There's
Ban it
somebody
off
else
it.
on the talent team that would be very happy in some ways, but maybe only partially into the game. We've had a lot of big performances from players, a lot of big plays, but we can't forget about the big assists. Let's take a look at the number one assist that we picked out for today in our Assist of the Day presented by State Farm.
This one, I've seen this one before. Kaiwin comes up big once again. It was yesterday, he was coming out with Bard. This one was a Rift Herald fight that was going back and forth a little bit. But it comes down to these split-second moments where he sees, he must be calling out to his team, like just to at least look at what he's about to do. Flashes in for the pulverize and sets up Uniboy for an amazing E on towards two members and an amazing team fight. So once again, Kaiwin, an insane assist for his team to pick up the team fight win.
And this is definitely one of those plays that if you just go by yourself, it looks so troll. You dive in, you burn a summoner spell, and you instantly get popped. But because everyone is on the same page, and remember guys, this is the pickup team, but they're all on the same page. They're all following up on those engages. And I would not be surprised to see Kongyue and Kaiwing play together on a team in the future because their synergy as players from different teams looks nearly flawless at this stage.
Even when the overall result isn't a success, we did still get those moments to have some hope for the future. Lots of games that happened today with 7 in the books, but we have more to come tomorrow. Taking a look at that schedule, we're kind of getting into the nitty-gritty here since it is just a single round. Robin, Raz, what match are you looking at most?
For me, it's the main event. At the very end, Unicorns 11 LGD. Now, LGD will need to win the first game, of course, but for me, Unicorns of Love had made a statement today. That one has to be the toughest matchup for LGD.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement here because if LGD don't win that match, and I would say win it convincingly, you have to start questioning how they're going to go into any best of fives with any kind of form. I'm going to give them the first game versus the V3. If they lose that game, I'm changing my pick of the game to a game that doesn't include LGD, ladies and gentlemen, because this is a team that just looks like they're a mess at the moment.
Oh, man, it's do or die for LGD. I mean, we're on day 2 and we're putting those words into the air. But other teams, we're getting to see a couple more performances from Unicorns of Love. Raz, do you think that they'll have as powerful showing as they did today?
I do think so. I think that they've showcased a lot of IQ in terms of how they pick and ban. The team fights have been looking just as strong as it was domestically, so I don't think there's any nerves coming in. So I just want to see them develop. If they can get the wards placed down really early on and have less scrappy experiences leading up to the team fights, then I'm looking. This looks really good for them.
All right, Raz, who you got? Last game of the day, who you got?
I have to go LGD. I can't just bank on a team to just go straight into the dumpster. I'm not going to do that. What do you think?
I mean, I'll play devil's advocate. I don't know what you want to kind of put on the line for this, but I would take Unicorns of Love in current form. I think one team is 2-0, one team is 0-2. The numbers kind of speak for itself. I'm not great at math, but I think there is a couple of games between them at the moment.
Well, I can't do a hair bet. That's off the table already. So
I'm gonna grow your hair.
Oh, that was an easy one for me.
Let's do it. I'm ready to see it. The quarantine length of hair. That's what we're in here for today in Los Angeles. But as far as cooldown goes, that's going to do it for us here on the broadcast. On behalf of myself, the casters, and all of the remote broadcast crews around the world, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you later with more Worlds to come. Until then, good morning, afternoon, evening, and good night.